I was sitting in my car outside the courthouse, hands trembling as I stared at the video on my phone. My sister Brittany, in her pristine white wedding dress, that was sprawled on the floor of what should have been her perfect reception. Chad stood over her, his face twisted with rage, his hand still raised from where he had just struck her across the face, before shoving her down so hard she crashed into a table of champagne glasses. The sound of shattering crystal mixed with screams. Then another angle showed police officers rushing in, wrestling Chad to the ground, handcuffs glinting under the fairy lights. I watched it 3 times, and each time, instead of feeling the panic I should have felt, I felt something else entirely. Peace. Cold, bitter peace. Because for once, I was not the one who had to fix this mess. If you have ever been the family fixer, the one who drops everything to save people who would not cross the street to help you, then please hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me if you have ever had to walk away from people you loved because they never loved you back the same way. Because what I am about to tell you is how I went from being the family doormat to the woman who finally put herself first. And it started 6 months before that wedding video, on what I thought was just another ordinary Tuesday. Let me take you back to where this all really began. I was 28 years old, covered in dust and concrete powder, standing in the middle of a historic building renovation project in downtown Denver. I had just won the Rising Star Award from the Colorado Historic Preservation Society for my work, restoring the facade of the old Daniels and Fisher Tower. This was the moment I had worked toward for 6 years. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, but I ignored it, savoring the weight of the glass trophy in my hands, the way the afternoon sun caught the etched letters of my name, Deborah Allison Davies. My name, my achievement. For once, something that was entirely mine. Then I made the mistake of checking Instagram during my lunch break. The first photo hit me like a punch to the gut. Brittany, my older sister, was standing in a bridal boutique, surrounded by mirrors that reflected infinite versions of her in a massive ball gown. The caption read, "Saying yes to the dress with my favorite people." There was my mother, Martha, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My Aunt Carol, 3 of Brittany's friends. And notably, conspicuously, painfully absent was me. I scrolled. More photos. A video of Brittany twirling, laughing that high-pitched giggle she always used when she wanted attention. "I cannot wait to share this special day with all the people I love," she cooed into the camera. "My family means everything to me." I sat there on a wooden crate, my sandwich forgotten, scrolling through 47 posts. Not a single one included me. Not a single comment asked where I was. It was as if I did not exist, as if the past 28 years of showing up, of fixing, of sacrificing, had been erased with a few swipes of a delete button. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone into the paint bucket beside me. I called my mother right there, not caring that my supervisor was probably looking for me. The phone rang 4 times before she picked up. "Oh, Debbie," my mother said, and I could already hear the guilt in her voice. The way she always sounded when she had been caught doing something she knew was wrong but hoped I would not notice. "I was going to call you about that." "Were you?" I said. It was not a question, because from where I am sitting, "Mom, it looks like my sister is planning a wedding and I am not invited. So please, explain to me what I am missing here." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, that shallow, rapid breath she always took when she was trying to figure out how to manipulate the situation. "It is complicated. Honey, you know how Chad is? He is very particular about the guest list. And with the budget they are working with, they had to make some difficult choices." Difficult choices. I repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air between us. "Mom, I am Hare's sister, her only sister. I have been there for every single major moment of her life. I was there when Emma was born because Brittany was too strung out to remember which hospital she was supposed to go to. I was there when Lucas had pneumonia and she was too busy with her boyfriend of the month to sit in the ER. I paid for her coffee shop when it was about to go under. I am not a distant cousin. I am her blood. Debbie, please do not make this harder than it already is." My mother pleaded. "You know how sensitive Brittany is. She is under a lot of stress with the wedding planning. Chad thinks that maybe you are a bit too, well, judgmental about their relationship. He thinks you might say something that could upset Brittany on her big day. I stood up so fast the crate toppled over behind me. Judgmental. I am judgmental because I told her the truth about Chad, because I said that a man who talks to his girlfriend the way he talks to her is not someone she should marry, because I pointed out that he has been through 3 jobs in 2 years, and expects her to pay for everything. That is not being judgmental. Mom, that is called being honest. That is called caring enough to tell her what everyone else is too scared to say. You are being dramatic, my mother said, her voice taking on that sharp edge she always used when she was done pretending to care about my feelings. Chad is a good man. He loves Brittany. They are building a life together. Maybe if you were not so negative all the time, people would want you around more. The words landed like a slap. I ended the call without saying goodbye and sat back down on the overturned crate, staring at my phone screen until it went black. Around me, the construction site hummed with activity, but I felt completely alone. That night, I did not go home. I drove straight to Boulder, to the house where I had grown up, where my parents still lived in the same 4-bedroom colonial, with the white picket fence that was now more gray than white. I parked in the driveway behind my father's truck and walked in without knocking. I had not knocked on that door since I was 12 years old. My father, Robert, was in the living room, pretending to watch television but really just staring at the dark screen. My mother was in the kitchen, and I could hear the sound of dishes being washed with more force than necessary. I stood in the doorway between the 2 rooms, my work boots leaving dusty prints on the hardwood floor. My mother was always so proud of. We need to talk, I said. All of us. Right now. My father looked up at me with those watery blue eyes that used to seem so kind when I was a child. Now they just looked weak. Debbie. Sweetheart. Maybe we should do this another time. Your mother has had a long day. I do not care about her long day. Dad. I walked into the center of the living room and stood there, forcing them both to look at me. I want to know why I am not invited to my own sister's wedding. And I want the real reason. Not the garbage Mom fed me on the phone about budget constraints and Chad's feelings. My mother appeared in the kitchen doorway, dish towel in hand, her face already arranged in that martyred expression she wore so well. Debbie, you are being unreasonable. This is not about you. This is Brittany's day, and she gets to decide who she wants there. I have spent my entire life making sure Brittany gets what she wants. I shot back. Do you remember when she totaled her car sophomore year because she was texting while driving? I gave her my car and took the bus to work for 6 months while she saved up for a new one. Except she never saved up. Did she? She spent the money on a trip to Cancun with her friends. And who co-signed for her car loan? Me. Who is still making payments on that loan because she defaulted after 4 months? Me? We paid you back for that, my mother said, but her eyes shifted away from mine. You paid me back $800 of a $12,000 loan. Mom, I had to take money out of my retirement account to cover the rest so my credit would not be destroyed. I turned to my father. And you? You were supposed to talk to her about it. You promised me you would make sure she took responsibility. But you never did you? Because it is easier to let me handle it. It is always easier to let Debbie fix it. My father's face crumpled. We know you have done a lot for this family. Honey, we do. But Brittany, she is not as strong as you. She needs more support. You have always been the capable one. The one who could handle things on your own. Your sister, she struggles. Struggles. I laughed, a harsh sound that made them both flinch. She struggles because you have never made her do anything for herself. She is 32 years old. Dad, she has 2 kids. And she still calls you every time she needs money. Every time she has a problem. Every time her life falls apart because of her own bad decisions. And who actually fixes it? Me. Not you. Not Mom. Me. I am the one who shows up. I am the one who pays. I am the one who sacrifices. And this is how you repay me. By erasing me from the most important day of her life. My mother stepped forward, reaching out as if to hug me. But I stepped back. Do not, I said. Do not touch me right now. Just tell me the truth. Why am I not invited? There was a long silence. Finally, my father spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Chad does not want you there. He says you make Brittany doubt him. He says every time you are around, Brittany starts questioning their relationship. He told Brittany he would not marry her if you were at the wedding. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the couch to steady myself. So Brittany chose him. She chose a man who would give her an ultimatum like that over her own sister. She loves him. Debbie, my mother said, and there were actual tears in her eyes now. She is afraid of losing him. You have to understand, she is not like you. She needs someone to take care of her. And what about me? My voice cracked. And I hated myself for it. What about what I need? Did anyone ask me if I was okay? Did anyone think about how this would make me feel, or am I just supposed to smile and accept it because that is what I always do? I fix things. I swallow my feelings, and I make sure everyone else is happy while I fall apart inside. No one answered. The silence was answer enough. I looked at my mother, at my father, at these two people who had raised me and supposedly loved me, and I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. They did not see me as a daughter. They saw me as a solution. A bank account with legs. A person whose only value was in what I could provide for them and for Brittany. I pulled out my phone right there in the living room. I opened Instagram and unfollowed my mother. Then my father. Then Brittany. Then I went to Facebook and did the same thing. Then Twitter. Then I blocked their numbers. My mother's face went white. What are you doing? I am done. I said simply. I am done fixing your problems. I am done being the responsible one while Brittany gets to be the victim. I am done sacrificing my own life so she can live hers without consequences. From now on, you are all on your own. Do not call me. Do not text me. Do not show up at my apartment. I am finished. You do not mean that, my father said, standing up from the couch. You are upset. We understand. But you are family. Family does not just walk away. I looked him dead in the eye. You walked away from me the moment you decided Brittany was more important. You just did not have the decency to tell me. At least I am being honest about it. I turned and walked out of that house. And I did not look back. Not once. I drove home in silence. No radio. No podcasts. Just the sound of my own breathing and the occasional sob that escaped before I could swallow it down. When I got to my apartment, a modest one-bedroom in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the lights of Denver flicker on as the sun set behind the mountains. My phone buzzed. It was Chloe, my best friend since college, the only person in my life who had never asked me for anything except my company. I saw the Instagram posts. Her text read, "Are you okay? Do you need me to come over?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding. I am okay. Just need some space to process. I will call you tomorrow. But I was not okay. I felt like I had been hollowed out. Like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that made me. Me. I had spent my entire adult life defining myself by my usefulness to my family. And now that I had cut them off, I did not know who I was supposed to be. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I threw myself into work, spending 12 and 14-hour days at the construction site, losing myself in measurements and blueprints and the satisfying crack of a sledgehammer through old plaster. I did not check social media. I did not answer calls from numbers I did not recognize, assuming they were my family trying to reach me. I existed in a cocoon of willful ignorance, pretending that if I did not think about the wedding, it would not hurt. Then, 3 weeks before the wedding date that I had seen on those Instagram posts, Chloe called me at 7 in the morning. I was already at the site, coffee in hand, reviewing the day's tasks with my crew. "Debbie," she said, and her voice had that tight to controlled quality it got when she was trying not to freak out. "I need to show you something. Can you meet me for breakfast, like, right now?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from her in a booth at Sam's Diner, watching her slide her phone across the table. On the screen was a video, shaky and dark, clearly shot in a bar. I recognized Chad immediately, his stupid tribal tattoo visible on his forearm as he leaned against the bar. Next to him was a woman I did not recognize, tall and blonde, wearing a dress that left very little to the imagination. As I watched, Chad turned to her, said something that made her laugh, and then kissed her. Not a friendly peck. A full, deep, hands in her hair kind of kiss. The video kept rolling, showing them leaving the bar together. His hand on her ass. "Where did you get this?" I asked, my voice completely flat. "A friend of a friend," Chloe said. She recognized Chad from Brittany's Facebook posts. This was taken last Saturday night at the Blake Street Tavern. The woman is apparently his co-worker, and before you ask, yes, there is more. She took her phone back and scrolled to show me screenshots of text messages, Chad's name at the top, messages to someone named Simone. Messages that were explicit and detailed and left absolutely no doubt about what kind of relationship they had. "He has been seeing her for at least 6 months, Chloe said. "Probably longer." I sat back against the vinyl booth and picked up my coffee. Taking a long, slow sip, Chloe watched me with wide eyes, clearly expecting me to explode or cry or do something dramatic. Instead, I felt nothing, or maybe not nothing. Maybe what I felt was vindication. "Are you going to tell Brittany?" Chloe asked carefully. "No," I said. "I am not." "What, Debbie?" "She is about to marry this guy. She deserves to know." "Does she?" I set down my coffee and looked at Chloe. She chose him over me. She kicked me out of her life because he told her to. She believed his lies about me being negative and judgmental instead of trusting the sister who has been there for her through everything. "So no, I am not going to tell her. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences." Chloe looked shocked. "That is not like you." "Good," I said, because the old me was an idiot. The old me would have sent her this video, and she would have made excuses for him. And then she would have blamed me for trying to ruin her happiness. And even if she did believe me, even if she broke up with him, she would come crying to me to fix her life. And I would do it. And we would be right back where we started. "So no, I am done. She wants to marry a cheater. She can marry a cheater." But Chloe could not let it go. What if I sent it to her anonymously? I should have said no. I should have told her to stay out of it. But there was a part of me, a small, dark part that I was not proud of, that wanted Brittany to know the truth. That wanted her to feel even a fraction of the pain I had felt when I found out I was not invited to her wedding. So I shrugged and said, "Do what you want. Just keep my name out of it." 3 days later, on a Friday afternoon, my phone started blowing up. 16 missed calls, 43 text messages, voicemails that I did not listen to. I was at home, had taken the day off to catch up on sleep and paperwork, and I watched the notifications pile up, with a strange sense of detachment. Finally, I opened one of the texts. It was from my mother. "Brittany needs you. Call me immediately. This is an emergency." I deleted it. Then I blocked her number. Again. She must have been calling from a different phone. The next text was from my father. "Please, Debbie, your sister is in trouble. We need you." I stared at that message for a long time. "We need you. Not we love you. Not we are sorry for how we treated you. Just we need you." Because that was all I had ever been to them. A need. A resource to be tapped whenever things went wrong. I put my phone on silent and went back to reading my book. A thriller about a woman who faked her own death to escape her toxic family. The irony was not lost on me. That evening, someone started pounding on my apartment door. I knew it was them before I even looked through the peephole. My mother and father stood in the hallway, my mother's face streaked with mascara. My father looking 10 years older than he had just a month ago. "Debbie, open this door right now," my mother shouted. "Your sister's wedding is falling apart, and you need to help fix it." I opened the door but did not invite them in. "No," I said. "No." My mother looked at me like I had just spoken in a foreign language. "What do you mean?" "No, your sister needs you." "I mean no." "Mom, I am not going to help. I am not going to fix this. I am not going to do anything. You made it very clear that I am not part of this family anymore. So why would I help with family problems?" "Do not be childish," my father said. "This is serious." Chad hit Brittany. He pushed her into a wall because she confronted him about cheating. She has a bruise on her face. Debbie. She is scared and confused, and she needs her sister. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the old instinct kick in. The urge to grab my keys, to rush to Brittany's side, to make everything okay. But then I remembered the Instagram posts, the wedding planning that happened without me, the years of being taken for granted, and the moment passed. She has a mother and a father. I said, she does not need me. She made that very clear. How can you be so cruel? My mother demanded. Your own flesh and blood has been abused, and you are just going to turn your back on her. The way you turned your back on me, I asked quietly. The way you chose her happiness over my dignity. The way you let her cut me out of her life without even fighting for me. You taught me how to turn my back. Mom, I am just following your example. My father tried a different approach. Debbie, I know you are angry. You have every right to be. We handled this badly. But please, for the sake of your niece and nephew, do not do this. They need their aunt. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you let their mother exclude me from her wedding. Maybe you should have set some boundaries with Brittany years ago instead of enabling her to treat people like disposable tools. But you did not, so here we are. I started to close the door, but my mother stuck her foot in the way. If you do not help her, I will never forgive you, she said, her voice shaking with rage. You will be dead to me. I looked at her, at this woman who had given birth to me, who had supposedly loved me, and I felt nothing. Mom, I have been dead to you for years. You just never bothered to tell me. I pushed her foot out of the way and closed the door, locking it behind me. I heard them arguing in the hallway for a few minutes before they finally left, my mother's voice echoing down the stairwell. She is going to regret this. Mark my words. Robert, she is going to regret this. But I did not regret it. For the first time in my life, I felt light, like I had been carrying a boulder on my back for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. I made myself dinner, took a long bath, and went to bed early. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next day was Saturday, the day of the wedding that I was not invited to. I woke up late, made pancakes, and settled onto my couch with a book and a cup of coffee. At 2 p.m, right around the time I assumed the ceremony was happening, my phone started buzzing. Not calls this time. Videos. Someone, I never found out who, was live streaming the wedding disaster. I should not have watched. I should have deleted the messages and gone back to my book. But I could not help myself. I opened the first video. The reception was in full swing. Or it had been. The venue was beautiful. One of those restored barns in the foothills with string lights and mason jars and all the Pinterest perfect details that Brittany had probably spent months planning. In the center of the frame, Chad and Brittany were arguing, their voices loud enough to be heard over the music that someone had frantically turned off. You are a liar, Brittany screamed, shoving Chad's chest. You have been lying to me for months. I did not lie, Chad shot back. You are being paranoid. That video does not prove anything. It proves you kissed her. It proves you have been texting her. What else do I need to see? Brittany was crying now, her perfect makeup running down her face, her veil crooked. Around them, wedding guests stood frozen, drinks in hand. Watching the show, the next part happened fast. Chad grabbed Brittany's arm, hard enough that she yelped. You are embarrassing me, he hissed. In front of everyone. Can you just shut up for once? Brittany tried to pull away, and that was when Chad lost it completely. He slapped her, the sound sharp and clear even through the phone's speaker. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before Brittany could react, Chad shoved her, both hands on her shoulders, sending her stumbling backward into a table, laden with champagne glasses. She crashed through them, glass shattering everywhere, her dress ripping on the broken stems. She landed hard on the floor, one hand cut and bleeding, her expression stunned. For a moment, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. Groomsmen rushed forward, grabbing Chad and pulling him away from Brittany. Bridesmaids ran to help her up. Someone called the police. The video cut off as sirens became audible in the background. The next video picked up outside the venue, showing police officers leading Chad away in handcuffs. He was shouting something about it being a misunderstanding, about Brittany overreacting, about how he was the victim here. Brittany sat on the steps of the barn, wrapped in someone's jacket, her face buried in her hands, surrounded by her bridesmaids, who looked just as shell-shocked as she did. I watched the videos 3 times, and every time, I waited for the guilt to come, for the voice in my head that would tell me I should be there, that I should help, that I was a terrible person for sitting at home while my sister's life imploded. But the voice never came. Instead, I felt calm and justified and oddly satisfied. This was the man Brittany had chosen over me. This was the relationship she had protected by cutting me out of her life. And now everyone could see what I had seen all along. I set my phone aside and went back to my book. The calls and texts started again within the hour. My mother, sobbing. My father, begging. Unknown numbers that I assumed were relatives or family friends. I ignored them all. On Sunday, I turned off my phone completely and spent the day hiking in the Flatirons. Just me in the mountains and the sound of wind through the pine trees. I did not think about Brittany or Chad or the disaster wedding. I thought about myself, about what I wanted, about the life I could build now that I was free from the obligation to fix everyone else's mistakes. Monday morning, I turned my phone back on. 93 notifications. I deleted them without reading. I went to work, briefed my crew, reviewed blueprints for the next phase of the restoration project. At noon, as I was eating lunch in my car, someone knocked on the window. I looked up to find my father standing in the parking lot, drenched from the rain that had started that morning, looking utterly defeated. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door and let him get in the passenger seat. He sat there, dripping water onto my floor mats, not speaking. I did not speak either. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he said, "I am sorry. For what I asked. Be specific." He flinched at my tone. "For not standing up for you. For letting Brittany cut you out of the wedding. For not seeing how much you have sacrificed for this family. For taking you for granted." "Okay," I said. Apology noted. "That is it, okay," he looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Debbie, your sister is devastated. The wedding is off. Chad is facing assault charges. She has no money. No plan. No idea what to do next. She needs help. So help her," I said. "You and Mom. That is what parents do." "We cannot," he said, and his voice broke. "We do not have the money. We took out a second mortgage on the house to help pay for the wedding. We maxed out our credit cards on the deposit for the venue and the photographer. We are in over our heads." I stared at him. "You took out a second mortgage for Brittany's wedding. Are you kidding me?" "We thought she deserved a beautiful day," he said weakly. "We thought it would be the start of a new chapter for her. And you did not think to maybe, I do not know, suggest she have a smaller wedding, or that she save up and pay for it herself like a functioning adult." I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. "How much?" $40,000, he whispered. "We owe $40,000. And with Chad arrested, the venue will not refund the deposit. None of the vendors will. We are on the hook for all of it. And that is on top of the mortgage payments. Debbie, we are going to lose the house." A cold, terrible suspicion began forming in the back of my mind. "Dad, why are you really here? What is it you are not telling me?" He could not look at me. He stared out the windshield at the rain, his hands twisting in his lap. "There is more. Your mother. She. God. I do not even know how to say this. She forged your signature." The world stopped. "What?" "On loan documents. For the house. She put you down as a co-signer on the second mortgage. And on a business loan for Brittany's coffee shop. The one that failed 2 years ago. You remember. We told you we had handled it. That everything was taken care of. But we did not. Brittany defaulted on the loan. And because your name is on it. Legally. You are responsible. The bank has been trying to reach you. That is why we have been calling so much. They are threatening to sue." I sat very still. If I moved, if I reacted, I was going to do something I would regret. How much my voice sounded strange. Distant. Like it was coming from someone else. between the mortgage and the business loan, about $85,000. But Debbie, you have to understand. We were disparity. Brittany was going to lose everything. We thought we could pay it back before you ever found out. We never meant for it to get this bad. Get out of my car, I said quietly. Debbie, please, get out of my car right now, or I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. My father scrambled out of the car, slamming the door behind him. Through the rain-streaked window, I could see him standing there, soaked and pathetic, mouthing words I could not hear. I drove away without looking back. I drove straight to the office of Ethan Miller, a lawyer I had worked with on several construction contracts. He was a friend, someone I trusted, someone who had always shot straight with me. I burst into his office without an appointment, probably looking like a madwoman, and said, I need help. My family forged my signature on loan documents, and I want to know how much trouble I am in and how to fix it. Ethan spent the next 3 hours going through everything my father had given me. He made phone calls. He reviewed documents. He ran credit checks. And with every piece of information he uncovered, his expression grew darker. Debbie, he finally said, sitting back in his chair and rubbing his eyes. This is bad. Really bad. Your mother did not just forge your signature on the mortgage and one business loan. She forged it on 3 separate loans, totaling about $130,000. And because your credit is good and hers is not, the banks approved everything without much scrutiny. I felt numb. Can they do that? Is that even legal? Legal, no. It is absolutely not legal. It is fraud. It is identity theft. It is forgery. Your mother could go to prison for this. Your father, too, if he knew about it and did not report it. But here is the problem. Right now, legally, you are on the hook for these debts unless you can prove you did not sign the documents. And proving that means filing police reports. It means pressing charges. It means potentially sending your own mother to jail. Good, I said. Do it. Ethan blinked. Debbie, I do not think you understand what you are saying. If you press charges, I understand perfectly. I interrupted. My mother stole my identity. She destroyed my credit. She put me in debt to the tune of over $100,000 so my sister could have a fancy wedding and a failed business. She has been lying to me for years. She chose Brittany over me every single time. So yes, I want to press charges. I want her to face consequences. For once in her life, I want her to be held accountable. Ethan studied me for a long moment. Okay, he finally said. If that is what you want, I will help you. But I need you to be sure. Because once we start this, there is no going back. Your family will never forgive you. My family stopped being my family the day they forged my name. I said, so let us burn it all down. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan and I built a case. We gathered every document, every email, every text message. We subpoenaed bank records. We got handwriting analysis done on the signatures. We documented every single lie, every single manipulation, every single crime. And on a rainy Thursday afternoon, we filed a police report. The detective assigned to the case was a woman named Sarah Rodriguez, mid-40s, tired eyes, someone who had clearly seen too much in her career to be shocked by anything. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes, her expression carefully neutral. When I finished, she said, "This is one of the most clear-cut cases of identity fraud I have seen in a long time. Do you want to press charges?" "Yes," I said. "I do. Even though it is your mother, especially because it is my mother." Detective Rodriguez nodded. "Okay. We will need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement. Bring all the documents your lawyer has compiled. We will execute a search warrant on your parents' home and seize any relevant materials. And then we will move forward with filing charges." I should have felt guilty. I should have felt conflicted. But all I felt was relief. That night, I called Chloe and told her everything. She listened in stunned silence, and when I finished, she said, "Holy hell. Deb, are you okay?" "I am better than I have been in years." I said, "For the first time in my life, I am putting myself first." And it feels incredible. What about Brittany? What about your dad? Are they going down for this too? My dad claims he did not know about most of it. I said, Ethan thinks we can keep him out of jail if he cooperates and testifies against my mother. As for Brittany, she benefited from the fraud, so she could face charges too. But honestly, Chloe, I do not care anymore. They made their choices. Now they get to live with them. The next day, I gave my statement at the police station. It took 4 hours. I answered every question, provided every piece of evidence, recounted every lie and manipulation I could remember. Detective Rodriguez recorded everything, her face impassive but her eyes sympathetic. When we finished, she walked me out to the lobby and said, "For what it is worth, I think you are doing the right thing. Family does not get a free pass to destroy your life." 2 days later, my mother was arrested. The police showed up at my parents' house at 6 in the morning with a search warrant. They seized computers, files, bank statements, everything. My mother was taken to the station in handcuffs, screaming about how I had betrayed the family, how I was a monster, how she would never forgive me. My father called me from a borrowed phone, his voice hollow. "They took your mother. They took everything. Debbie, how could you do this?" "How could I?" I repeated. "Dad, she stole from me. She forged my name. She committed multiple felonies. How could I not? She is your mother," he said, as if that explained everything, as if that made it all okay. "Then she should have acted like a mother instead of a criminal," I said, and hung up. That same day, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Brittany. Her voice was small, broken, nothing like the confident woman who had posted those wedding photos. "Debbie," she said, "please, you have to drop the charges. Mom could go to prison. She could lose everything. We could lose the house. Emma and Lucas, they will have nowhere to live. They can live with you," I said. "You are their mother. Figure it out." "I do not have any money," she sobbed. "Chad cleaned out our joint account before they arrested him. I have nothing. I am staying at Mom and Dad's because I cannot even afford my own rent. Please, Debbie, I am begging you. Do not do this." Part of me, the old part that had spent a lifetime fixing Brittany's problems, wanted to cave, wanted to say yes. "Okay, I will drop the charges. We can work this out as a family." But then I remembered. I remembered the wedding I was not invited to. I remembered the years of being taken for granted. I remembered my mother forging my signature, stealing my identity, putting me in debt for Brittany's benefit. And the urge to cave disappeared. "Brittany, for 28 years, I have been cleaning up your messes. I gave you money when you were broke. I co-signed loans you never paid back. I watched your kids when you were too busy partying. I saved your coffee shop from bankruptcy. I did everything for you. And you repaid me by cutting me out of your wedding because your abusive boyfriend did not like me telling the truth. You chose him over me. You chose Mom and Dad over me. You chose everyone over me. Sono. I am not dropping the charges. Mom committed crimes. She is going to face the consequences. And so are you." "What do you mean?" "So am I." Her voice went shrill with panic. "You benefited from the fraud. Brittany, the business loan that Mom took out in my name, that was for your coffee shop. The one you ran into the ground with your terrible management and your refusal to actually work legally. You could be charged as an accomplice. My lawyer is looking into it right now." That was not entirely true. Ethan had said it would be difficult to prove Brittany knew about the forgery. But I wanted her to sweat. I wanted her to feel even a fraction of the fear and anxiety I had felt when I found out what they had done. "You would send me to jail," Brittany whispered. "Your own sister? You wrote me out of your life," I said. "Now you get to see what that actually looks like." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Emma and Lucas, my niece and nephew. They were innocent in all of this. They were 7 and 9 years old, and their world was falling apart. Their father was a domestic abuser facing criminal charges. Their mother was broke and possibly facing fraud charges. Their grandmother was definitely going to jail, and their grandfather was barely holding it together. Part of me felt guilty, but a larger part of me knew that if I gave in now, nothing would change. Brittany would learn that she could destroy my life and I would still come running to save her. My mother would learn that she could commit crimes, and I would protect her from the consequences. And I would go back to being the family fixer, the doormat, the person whose only value was in what she could provide for others. So I did not give in. Instead, I worked with Ethan to create a settlement proposal. It was harsh but fair. My mother would plead guilty to identity theft and fraud. In exchange for my agreement not to pursue maximum sentencing, she would be sentenced to 18 months in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She would be required to pay full restitution, which meant selling assets. My father would sell the side lot, a piece of land adjacent to their property that was worth about $60,000. The proceeds would go toward paying off my forged debts. Brittany would sign a legally binding agreement to repay the remainder over the next 10 years, with automatic wage garnishment if she missed payments. If they did not agree to these terms, I would push for maximum sentencing for my mother and pursue charges against Brittany as well. Ethan presented the offer to their lawyer, a public defender who looked overwhelmed and underpaid. 3 days later, they accepted. They did not have a choice. The evidence against my mother was overwhelming. A trial would only make things worse. The day my mother was sentenced, I was not in the courtroom. I could not bring myself to watch. But Ethan was there, and he texted me updates. My mother had tried to give a tearful speech about how she had only been trying to help her daughter, how she had made a mistake, how she was sorry. The judge was not impressed. He sentenced her to exactly what we had agreed to, and she was led away in handcuffs. Still crying, my father texted me that night. "I hope you are happy. You destroyed this family." I did not respond. 2 weeks later, the side lot was sold. The money went directly to paying off the fraudulent loans. It covered about half of what I was owed. The rest would come from Brittany's payments, which started immediately. Ethan had set it up so that 20% of her paycheck was automatically deducted and transferred to an account in my name. Brittany got a job at a grocery store, then picked up a second job waitressing at a diner, then a third job cleaning houses on weekends. I heard all of this through Chloe, who heard it through mutual acquaintances. I did not speak to Brittany directly. My father sold the main house as well. He could not afford the mortgage payments without my mother's income. And with her in prison, there was no point in keeping it. He moved into a small apartment in a cheaper part of town. Emma and Lucas moved in with him. Brittany stayed in her own place, working her 3 jobs, seeing her kids on weekends. It was not the life any of them had planned, but it was the life they had earned. As for me, I was free. For the first time in my adult life, I was not responsible for anyone else's problems. I was not fielding phone calls about emergencies. I was not lending money I would never see again. I was not sacrificing my own happiness for people who did not appreciate it. I threw myself into my work. The Historic Preservation Project wrapped up successfully, and I received another award. This one from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I was featured in an architecture magazine. I got a promotion. I bought a small house in the Highlands neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. All mine. No one else's name on the deed. No one else with a key. Ethan and I started spending more time together. It started as friendship, grabbing drinks after work, hiking on weekends, going to Rockies games. Somewhere along the way, it became more. He understood me in a way no one else did. He had seen me at my worst, had helped me through the legal nightmare, had never once judged me for the decisions I made. 6 months after my mother was sentenced, he kissed me in the parking lot after a concert at Red Rocks. And I kissed him back. A year passed. Then, another. My mother was released from prison after serving 14 months. 2 months off for good behavior. I did not go to see her. I did not send a card. I pretended she did not exist. The same way she had pretended my feelings did not matter for most of my life. My father reached out once, asking if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, mostly because I was curious. We met at a neutral location, a Starbucks halfway between our respective neighborhoods. He looked older, grayer, more tired. He ordered a black coffee and sat down across from me, his hands wrapped around the cup like he needed the warmth. I do not expect you to forgive me, he said. I do not even expect you to understand. But I need you to know that I am sorry. For all of it. For not protecting you. For letting your mother manipulate the situation. For choosing Brittany over you. For being a coward. I sipped my latte and waited. It continued. Your mother and I are getting divorced. I cannot forgive her for what she did. Not to you. And honestly, not to me either. She lied to me too. About the extent of the loans. About how much trouble we were in. I thought we were taking out one small loan for the wedding. I did not know about the business loan or the other mortgages. And even if I had known, I should have stopped her. I should have protected you. Yes, I said. You should have. He nodded, accepting the rebuke. Brittany has changed. I know you do not want to hear it, but she has. She is working hard. She is taking care of her kids. She is in therapy. She talks about you sometimes. About how she took you for granted. How she should have stood up for you. How she wishes she could go back and change everything. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just a vast emptiness where my feelings for Brittany used to be. Good for her. I said, she wants to see you. To apologize in person. I shook my head. No, I am not ready for that. Maybe I never will be. I understand, my father said. But I want you to know that Emma and Lucas ask about you. They miss their Aunt Debbie. They do not understand why you do not come around anymore. That hurt. That was the only thing that had the power to hurt me anymore. Those kids had not done anything wrong. They were victims of their parents' terrible choices, just like I had been. I will think about it, I said, and I meant it. 3 months later, I agreed to see Emma and Lucas. Not at my father's apartment. And not with Brittany present. I met them at a park. Neutral territory. With my father supervising from a distance, they ran to me when they saw me, throwing their arms around my waist. And I felt something crack inside my chest. Aunt Debbie, Emma said, her face buried in my jacket. We missed you so much. Why did you go away? It is complicated. Sweetheart, I said, kneeling down so I was at eye level with them. Grown-up stuff. But it was not because of you. I want you to know that. You did not do anything wrong. We spent the afternoon playing on the swings, feeding ducks at the pond, eating ice cream. It was almost like old times. Except it was not, because in the old times, I had been the babysitter, the emergency contact, the person who showed up whenever Brittany could not be bothered. Now, I was someone who showed up on my own terms. When I wanted to, because I chose to. Not because I was obligated to. When it was time to leave, Emma hugged me again. Can we see you again soon? She asked. Her big brown eyes hopeful. Yes, I said. I will come visit you every other weekend. Would you like that? She nodded enthusiastically. Lucas, quieter and more reserved, just smiled at me. They left with my father, waving until I could not see them anymore. I sat in my car for a long time after they were gone, processing the emotions that I had been holding at bay. I loved those kids. I always had. But loving them did not mean I had to sacrifice myself for their mother. It did not mean I had to forgive Brittany or my mother or go back to being the person I used to be. A few weeks after that visit, I came home from work to find a small package on my doorstep. No return address. Just my name, written in shaky handwriting, I did not recognize at first. Inside was a pocket watch, old and tarnished, the kind that men carried in the 1800s. It had belonged to my grandfather, my father's father, who had passed away when I was 15. I had always loved that watch. I used to sit with my grandfather and listen to it tick, asking him to tell me stories about the old days. After he died, the watch had disappeared. I had assumed it was lost. Underneath the watch was a note, written on lined paper torn from a spiral notebook. Debbie, I know you do not want to hear from me. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I need to say this anyway. I am sorry. I am sorry for choosing Chad over you. I am sorry for letting Mom manipulate me into excluding you from the wedding. I am sorry for every time I took advantage of your kindness. Every time I let you fix my problems without ever saying thank you. Every time I made you feel like you did not matter. You deserved better. You deserved a sister who loved you as much as you loved her. I found this watch in Mom's jewelry box. She had taken it after Grandpa died and never told anyone. I think she was going to sell it to pay for the wedding. I took it before she could. I know how much it meant to you. I know how much Grandpa meant to you. Please accept this. Not as payment for what I owe you, because I can never repay that. But as a symbol, I am trying to be better. I am trying to be the person you always believed I could be. I do not expect you to forgive me, but I hope someday you can at least believe that I am trying. Love. Brittany. I sat on my front steps, holding the watch, feeling the weight of it in my palm. The last bit of anger I had been holding onto loosened its grip on my heart. I was not ready to forgive Brittany. Maybe I never would be. But this gesture, this small act of returning something that mattered to me, was more than anyone else in my family had done. It was a start. Not the start of a reconciliation, but the start of acknowledgement, the start of Brittany taking responsibility. I did not call her. I did not text her. But I did not throw away the watch either. I put it on my dresser, where I could see it every morning when I woke up. A reminder of my grandfather, who had loved me unconditionally, and a reminder that people could change. Even if that change came too late to repair what had been broken, months turned into years. I continued to see Emma and Lucas every other weekend. I continued to build my career, to live in my house, to date Ethan, who eventually became my fiancé. I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy in a way I had never been when I was constantly sacrificing for my family. My mother and I never reconciled. She sent letters from prison, then from her halfway house, then from the small apartment she moved into after her release. I read the first few. They were full of excuses, justifications, pleas for forgiveness. After a while, I stopped opening them. I did not need her apology. I did not need her to understand what she had done wrong. I just needed her to leave me alone. Brittany and I maintained a distant, cautious relationship. We were not sisters in the way we had been before. We were more like acquaintances who happened to share DNA and a complicated history. She kept making her payments. 20% of her income every month. Never missing a deadline. She sent me updates about Emma and Lucas, pictures from school events, report cards. A little moments she thought I might want to know about. I appreciated the effort, even if I could not bring myself to feel warmth toward her. My father and I slowly rebuilt something resembling a relationship. It was not what it had been, and it never would be. But he had stood up to my mother in the end. Had divorced her, had tried to make amends. That counted for something. We had dinner once a month, just the two of us, talking about work and the kids and carefully avoiding anything too emotional. It was enough. 3 years after the wedding that never happened, I was sitting on the porch of my house, watching the sun set over the mountains, a glass of wine in my hand. Ethan was inside, making dinner, music drifting through the open window. My phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. Just saw on Facebook that Brittany completed her payment plan. Last installment went through this morning. How does it feel? I thought about it for a moment, swirling the wine in my glass. How did it feel? It felt like closure. It felt like justice. It felt like the end of a very long, very painful chapter of my life. I texted back. It feels like freedom. And it did. I was free from debt, free from obligation, free from the burden of being everyone's fixer. I had built a life on my own terms. I had friends who valued me, a partner who loved me, a career I was proud of. I had learned to set boundaries, to say no, to put myself first. I had learned that walking away was not cruelty. It was self-preservation. I had learned that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let other people sink. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. I took a sip of wine and smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile, but a genuine smile of contentment. For the first time in my life, I was exactly where I wanted to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do, with exactly the people I chose to have in my life. And if that made me selfish in some people's eyes, I could live with that. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. and I had finally learned to love myself enough not to let anyone else destroy me. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been the fixer in your family? Have you ever sacrificed so much for people who did not appreciate it that you lost yourself in the process? Have you ever had to make the painful decision to walk away from people you loved because staying was killing you? If you have, drop a Chi5 comment below. Tell me your story, because you are not alone. And if my story taught me anything, it is that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. And you deserve to survive. You deserve to thrive. You deserve to build a life that makes you happy, even if that means leaving behind people who only valued what you could do for them, not who you actually were. If this story resonated with you, if you have ever felt invisible in your own family, if you have ever been the one everyone turned to but no one showed up for, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about finding yourself, setting boundaries, and learning that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. And most importantly, remember this. You are not responsible for fixing everyone else's life. You are only responsible for living your own. And that is not selfish. That is wisdom. Now go live your life. On your terms. For yourself. Because you deserve it.